of Kabbalah and coffee. All right, everyone knows Kabbalah sucks. Really? Oh, it's the worst. For Rizzy, dog, this shit is terrible. All right, what are we doing now? It's Yiddish stuff. Why? Why not? What's new? Um, I fucked up night. Nothing too crazy, but just abnormal. All right, so Amachai, that's what Rebbetzin says after we still. Halavai, that's what she wants it. She wishes. Yiddish Shakap, Yenta, it's kind of a fetish of mine. It means talkative bitch. Tackless, brass tacks, motherfucker. Notch, it's munching on pussy. Bastard, that's soulmate or Brashirta. It's a female soulmate Brashirta. It's a male soulmate mishmash. I was taking a bath. Everybody knows that one. That was a bunch of shit together. Bupkis, that means nothing. Beans, good yontif means happy holiday, baby. L'chaim, to life, par, neutral, flat, kosher, smooth. Mensch, don't use a program. Means like a good dude. Skoyach. Well, it was. We'll do the whole thing. It was. Yeah, Yasher, Kokaka. Literally, may your strength be directed forward. Ironically, the forward extension was shortened, and people don't have the cock strength to say the two guttural sounds at the end. So it became Yasher Koach, which means strength. Means like more power to you. May your strength be straightened. May your strength be firm. Then that got shortened to Skoyach. Skoyach. Alright, next, Oive. Do you say this? Yeah. Did your parents and grandparents say it? Yeah, to some extent. Like there were versions of it. Oi and Ve are two very old Jewish interjections, which mean, well, Oi is found many times in the Bible. See Numbers 21:29, Samuel 4:7, and Isaiah 3:11. For a few examples, Ve is newer than Oi. It is always Aramaic. It is always Aramaic equivalent. Today, Oi and Ve are often used together. Oive. What's Oive? I forgot to say the thing that we say. I'm fucking tired. So I may screw up some terms. No one really knows Eluve, Elu, Dibre, Elohim, Chaim, but this is the resort we live by. Do as thou wilt, just don't fuck up. Oive is an ethnic. Today, Oy and Ve are often used together. Oive is the ethnically Jewish way to react when you find out how much your son's dental work will cost, or when you find out there is a 2-hour wait time for a table at the restaurant where you just arrived. Sometimes you'll hear people groan oi bavoy, which is Hebrew for oy vey. Those who prefer Yiddish translations will often cry out, Vey is mir, which means woe is me. Alternatively, some view oy vey as being entirely Yiddish, Judeo-German in origin. In their view, vey is a cognate from the English woe, with oi being a general interjection of despair. Oy vey would thus be a direct Yiddish parallel to oh, whoa. Let's pray that God sends us Mashiach already so we can stop waxing eloquent about our woes and expand our vocabulary of positive interjections. Word dog. All right, one thing we forgot to say. So, what's a female mensch? Well, it would be Zedekis Roy. Really? Zedekis? Yeah. Are you sure? Um, yeah. What does that mean? It means like an honorable chick. Does it? Yeah, righteous woman. That combines Hebrew and what is righteous woman in Yiddish. Tzedekah. I mean, I just spelled it incorrectly, but Tzedekah Froy. All right, that's cool. What about woman of valor? What about Esher Chayil? Really? Or directly from Hebrew? So Esher Chayil. That's a little different though. So Tzedekah Froy is probably. Man, I'm tired. All right. What's tomorrow's word? Oh, it's a good one. We'll keep that one secret. All right. Cool story, Rabbi. What's the next thing? Well, kids, we've got fucking Kabbalah to review. Really? Yeah, dog. I am tired. My hours are so fucked up. Okay. So this is Midnagdik, Lithuanian Kabbalah. All right. Oh, this is gonna be long.
Misnagdim, opponents, Sephardi pronunciation, Mitnagdim, singular Misnich Mitnij, was a religious movement among the Jews of Eastern Europe which resisted the rise of Hasidism in the 18th and 19th centuries. The Misnagdim were particularly concentrated in Lithuania, where Vilnius served as the bastion of the movement, but anti-Hasidic activity was undertaken by the establishment in many locales. The most severe clash between the factions took place in the failure to contain Hasidism led the Misnagdim to develop distinct religious philosophies and communal institutions, which were not merely a perpetuation of the old status quo but often innovated. The most notable results of these efforts, pioneered by Chaim of Volozhin and continued by his disciples, were the modern, independent yeshiva and the Muser movement. Since the late 19th century, tensions with the Hasidim largely subsided, and the heirs of Misnagdim adopted the Evax. Origins. The rapid spread of Hasidism in the second half of the 18th century greatly troubled many traditions. traditional rabbis. Many saw it as heretical. Much Judaism was still fearful of the messianic movements of the Sabbateans and the Frankists, the followers of the messianic claimant Sabbatini, 1626-1676, and Jacob Frank, 1726-1791, respectively. Many rabbis suspected Hasidism of an intimate connection with these movements. Hasidism's founder was Rabbi Israel ben Eliezer, c. 1700-1760, known as the Baal Shem Tov, master of the good name, usually applied to a saintly Jew who was also a wonder worker, or simply by the acronym Besh, Hebrew. He taught that man's relationship with God depended on immediate religious experience, in addition to knowledge and observance of the details of the Torah and Talmud. The characteristically misnagdic approach to Judaism was marked by a concentration on highly intellectual Talmud study. However, it by no means rejected mysticism. The movement's leaders, like the Gaon of Vilna and Chaim of Volozhin, were deeply immersed in Kabbalah. Their difference with the Hasidim was their opposition to involving mystical teachings and considerations in the public life. Outside the elitist circles which studied and practiced Kabbalah, the Hasidic leaders' inclination to rule in legal matters, binding for the whole community, as opposed to strictures voluntarily adopted by the few, based on mystical considerations, greatly angered the misnagdim. On another theoretical level, Chaim of Volozhin and his disciples did not share Hasidism's basic notion that man could grasp the immanence of God's presence in the created universe, thus being able to transcend ordinary reality and potentially infuse everyday actions with spiritual meaning. However, Volozhin's exact position on the issue is subject to debate among researchers. Some believe the differences between the two schools of thought were almost semantic, while others regard their understanding of key doctrines as starkly different. Lithuania became the heartland of the traditionalist opposition to Hasidism, so Lithuanian and Misnich became virtually interchangeable terms in popular perception. However, a sizable minority of Greater Lithuanian Jews belong, to Hasidic groups, including Chabad, Slonim, Karlin Stalin, Pinsk, Amber and Koydanov. The first documented opposition to the Hasidic movement was from the Jewish community in Shklo, Lithuania, in 1772. Rabbis and community leaders voiced concerns about the Hasidim because they were going to Lithuania. The rabbis sent letters forbidding Hasidic prayer houses, urging the burning of Hasidic texts, and humiliating prominent Hasidic leaders. The rabbis imprisoned the Hasidic leaders in an attempt to isolate them from coming into contact with their followers. Opposition by the Vilna Gaon. The excommunications against Hasidic Jews in 1772 was accompanied by the public destruction of early Hasidic pamphlets. The Vilna Gaon, Elijah ben Solomon Zalman, a prominent rabbi, galvanized opposition to Hasidic Judaism. He believed that the claims of miracles and visions made by Hasidic Jews were lies and delusions. A key point of opposition was that the Vilna Gaon maintained that greatness in Torah and Jewish religious observance must come through natural human efforts of Torah study without relying on any external miracles and wonders. On the other hand, the Baal Shem Tov was focused on the emotional uplift of the Jewish people, especially following the Khmelnytsky uprising, 1648-1654, and the aftermath and disillusionment of the failed messiahships of Sabbatei Zevi and Jacob Frank. Opponents of Hasidism held that its followers viewed their Reds idolatrously, if not as explicitly divine. The Vilna Gaon expressed his disapproval of synagogues in which business was discussed and atheism openly believed, viewing them as disrespectful to sacred spaces. Other Jewish leaders criticized those claiming to be rabbis who did not honor Shabbat and mitzvot. Despite this, the Gaon encouraged the study of non-Jewish wisdom and opposed the assimilation of the Haskalah, aiming to enhance the spread of the Torah. It was noted that some who sought the role of rabbi did so out of a desire for power and recognition, a point often criticized in early Hasidism for lacking genuine pursuit of studying Torah for its own sake. Despite the Vilna Gaon's opposition, the Hasidim have always held the Vilna Gaon in high regard, recognizing his greatness as a true Jewish tzaddik. Hasidism's changes and changes. Most of the changes made by the Hasidim were the product of the Hasidic approach to Kabbalah, mainly as expressed by Isaac Luria, 1534-1572, and his disciples, particularly Hayim ben Joseph Weigel, 1543-1620. Luria greatly influenced both Misnagdim and Hasidim, but the former feared what they perceived as disturbing parallels in Hasidism to the heretical Sabbateans. An example of such an idea was that God entirely nullifies the universe. Depending on how this idea was preached and interpreted, it could give rise to pantheism, universally acknowledged as heresy, or lead to immoral behavior, since elements of Kabbalah can be misconstrued to de-emphasize ritual and glorify sexual metaphors as a more profound means of grasping some inner hidden notions in the Torah based on the Jews' intimate relationship with God. If God is present in everything, and if divinity is to be grasped in erotic terms, then Misnagdim feared Hasidim might feel justified in neglecting legal distinctions between the holy and the profane, and in engaging in inappropriate sexual activities. The Misnagdim were seen as using yeshivas and scholarship as the learning center. At the same time, Hasidic learning centered around the Rebbe, which was tied in with what they considered emotional displays of piety. The stress of Jewish prayer over Torah study and the Hasidic reinterpretation of Torah al-Shema, Torah study for its own sake, was seen as a rejection of traditional Judaism. Hasidim did not follow the traditional Ashkenazi prayer rite and instead used a combination of Ashkenazi and Sephardi rites and Lurianic Kabbalistic concepts known as Nusach Sephard. This was seen as a rejection of the traditional liturgy and, due to the resulting need for separate synagogues, a breach of communal unity. In addition, they faced criticism for neglecting the halakhic times for prayer. Hasidic Jews also added some halakhic stringencies to kashrut, the laws of keeping kosher. They made specific changes in how livestock was slaughtered and in who was considered a reliable mashgiach, a legal supervisor of kashrut. The result was that they essentially did not accept as kosher certain foods that were accepted as kosher by Misnagdim. This was seen as a change of traditional Judaism, an overstringency of halakha, and, again, a breach of communal unity. Response to the rise of Hasidism. With the rise of what would become known as Hasidism in the late 18th century, established conservative rabbinic authorities actively worked to stem its growth. Whereas before the breakaway Hasidic synagogues were occasionally opposed but largely checked, it spread into Lithuania and Belarus, prompted a concerted effort by opposing rabbis to halt its spread. In late 1772, after uniting the scholars of Brisk, Minsk and other Belarusian and Lithuanian communities, the Vilna Gaon then issued the first of many polemical letters against the nascent Hasidic movement, which was included in the anti-Hasidic anthology, Zemir Ritzim Ve'arvachurim, 1772. The letters published in the anthology included pronouncements of excommunication against Hasidic leaders on the basis of their worship and habits, all of which were seen as unorthodox by the Misnagdim. This included but was not limited to unsanctioned places of worship and ecstatic prayers, as well as charges of smoking, dancing, and the drinking of alcohol. In total, this was seen to be a radical departure from the Misnagdic norm of asceticism, scholarship, and stoic demeanor in worship and general conduct, and was viewed as a development that needed to be suppressed. Between 1772 and 1791, other Misnagdic tracts of this type would follow, all targeting the Hasidim in an effort to contain and eradicate them from Jewish communities. The harshest of these denouncements came between 1785 and 1815, combined with petitioning of the Russian government to outlaw the Hasidim on the grounds of their being spies, traitors, and subversives. However, this would not be realized. After the death of the Vilna Gaon in 1797 and the partitions of Poland in 1793 and 1795, the regions of Poland where there were disputes between Misnagdim and Hasidim came under the control of governments that did not want to take sides in intra-Jewish conflicts, but that wanted instead to abolish Jewish autonomy. In 1804, Hasidism was legalized by the Imperial Russian government, and efforts by the Misnagdim to contain the now widespread Hasidim were stymied. Winding down the battles. By the mid-19th century, most non-Hasidic Judaism had discontinued its struggle with Hasidism and reconciled itself to establishing the latter as a fact. One reason for the reconciliation between the Hasidim and the Misnagdim was the rise of the Haskalah movement. While many followers of this movement were observant, it was also used by the absolutist state to change Jewish education and culture, which both Misnagdim and Hasidim perceived as a greater threat to religion than they represented to each other. In the modern era, Misnagdim evolved into Litvish or Yeshivish. Litvish. Litvish is a Yiddish word that refers to Haredi Jews who are not Hasidim, and not Hardalim or Sephardic Haredim. It literally means Lithuanian. While Litvish functions as an adjective, the plural noun form often used is Litvaks. The Hebrew plural noun form which is used with the same meaning is Lidaim. Other expressions are Yeshivish and Misnagdim. It has been equated with the term Yeshiva world. The words Litvish, Lidaim, and Litvaks are all somewhat misleading, because there are also Hasidic Jews from Lithuania, and many Lithuanian Jews who are not Haredi. Litvish Jews largely identify with the Misnagdim, who objected to what they saw as Hasidic denigration of Torah study and normative Jewish law in favor of undue emphasis on emotionality and religious fellowship as pathways to the divine. The term Misnagdim, opponents, is somewhat outdated since the former opposition between the two groups has lost much of its salience, so the other terms are more common.
Pardon me. BRB, baby. I ain't going anywhere.
Litvaks, Yiddish, or Lidaim, Hebrew, are Jews who historically resided in the territory of the former Grand Duchy of Lithuania, covering present-day Lithuania, Belarus, Latvia, the northeastern Suwalki and Białystok regions of Poland, as well as adjacent areas of modern-day Russia and Ukraine. Over 90% of the population was killed during the Holocaust. The term is sometimes used to cover all Haredi Jews who follow an Ashkenazi, non-Hasidic style of life and learning, whatever their ethnic background. The area where Litvaks lived is referred to in Yiddish as Light, hence the Hebrew term Lidaim. No other Jew is more closely linked to a specifically Lithuanian city than the Vilna Gaon. In Yiddish, the genius of Vilna, Rabbi Elisha ben Solomon Zalman, 1720-1797. He helped make Vilna, modern-day Vilnius, a world center for Talmudic learning. High and grade, 1910-1982, was born in Vilna, the city about which he would write. The interwar Republic of Lithuania was home to a large and influential Jewish community whose members either fled the country or were murdered when the Holocaust in Lithuania began in 1941. Prior to World War II, the Lithuanian Jewish population comprised some 160,000 people, or about 7% of the total population. There were over 110 synagogues and 10 yeshivas in Vilnius alone. Census figures from 2005 recorded 4,007 Jews in Lithuania, 0.12% of the country's total population. Vilna, Vilnius, was occupied by Nazi Germany in June 1941. Within a matter of months, this famous Jewish community had been devastated with over two-thirds of its population killed. Based on data by Institute of Jewish Policy Research, as of January 1, 2016, the core Jewish population of Lithuania is estimated to be 2,700, 0.09% of the wider population, and the enlarged Jewish population was estimated at 6,500, 0.23% of the wider population. The Lithuanian Jewish population is concentrated in the capital, Vilnius, with smaller population centers including Klaipėda and Kaunas. Etymology. The Yiddish adjective Litvish means Lithuanian. The noun for a Lithuanian Jew is Litvak. The term Litvak itself originates from Litwin, a Polish term denoting a man from Lithuania, which however went out of use before the 19th century, having been supplanted in this meaning by Litwin, only to be revived around 1880 in the narrower meaning of a Lithuanian Jew. The Lithuania meant here is the territory of the former Grand Duchy of Lithuania. Of the main Yiddish dialects in Europe, the Litvish Yiddish, Lithuanian Yiddish dialect was spoken by Jews in Lithuania, Belarus, Latvia, Estonia and northeastern Poland, including Suwalki, Ane, and Białystok. However, following the dispute between the Hasidim and the Misnagdim, in which the Lithuanian academies were the heartland of opposition to Hasidism, Lithuanian came to have the connotation of Misnagdic, non-Hasidic Judaism generally, and to be used for all Jews who follow the traditions of the great Lithuanian yeshiva, whether or not their ancestors actually came from Lithuania. In modern Israel, Lidaim, Lithuanians is often used for all Haredi Jews who are not Hasidim and not Hardalim or Sephardic Haredim. Other expressions used for this purpose are Yeshivish and Misnagdim. Both the words Litvish and Lidaim are somewhat misleading, because there are also Hasidic Jews from Greater Lithuania and many Litvaks who are not Haredim. The term Misnagdim, opponents, on the other hand is somewhat outdated, because the opposition between the two groups has lost much of its relevance. Yeshivish is also problematic because Hasidim now make use of Yeshivot as much as the Litvish Jews. Ethnicity, religious customs and heritage. The characteristically Lithuanian approach to Judaism was marked by a concentration on highly intellectual Talmud study. Lithuania became the heartland of the traditionalist opposition to Hasidism. They named themselves Misnagdim, opposers of the Hasidim. The Lithuanian traditionalists believed Hasidim represented a threat to halakhic observance due to certain Kabbalistic beliefs held by the Hasidim that, if misinterpreted, could lead one to heresy as per the Frankists. Differences between the groups grew to the extent that in popular perception Lithuanian and Misnag became virtually interchangeable terms. However, a sizable minority of Litvaks belong, to Hasidic groups, including Chabad, Slonim, Karlin, Pinsk, Lechevich, Amber and Koinanov. With the spread of the Enlightenment, many Litvaks became devotees of the Haskalah, Jewish Enlightenment, movement in Eastern Europe pressing for better integration into European society, and today, many leading academics, scientists, and philosophers are of Lithuanian Jewish descent. The most famous Lithuanian institution of Jewish learning was Volozhin Yeshiva, which was the model for most later yeshivas. 20th century Lithuanian yeshivas include Ponevezh, Telch, Mir, Kelm, and Slobodka, which bear the names of their Lithuanian forebears. American offspring of the Lithuanian yeshiva movement include Yeshiva Rabbi Chaim Berlin, Rabbi Isaac Elchanan Theological Seminary, Yeshivas Rabbeinu Yisrael Meir HaKohen, Chafetz Chaim, and Beth Medrash Gavoha, Lakewood, as well as numerous other yeshivas founded by students of Lakewood's founder, Rabbi Aharon Kotler. In theoretical Talmud study, the leading Lithuanian authorities were Chaim Soloveitchik and the Brisker school. Rival approaches were those of the Mir and Telch yeshivas. In practical halakha, the Lithuanians traditionally followed the Erach HaShelchin, though today, the Lithuanian yeshivas prefer the Mishnah Berurah, which is regarded as both more analytic and more accessible. In the 19th century, the Orthodox Ashkenazi residents of the Holy Land, broadly speaking, were divided into Hasidim and Parashim, who were Litvaks influenced by the Vilna Gaon. For this reason, in modern-day Israeli Haredi parlance the terms Litvak, noun, or Litvisher, adjective, or in Hebrew Litain, are often used loosely to include any non-Hasidic Ashkenazi Haredi individual or institution. Another reason for this broadening of the term is the fact that many of the leading Israeli Haredi yeshivas, outside the Hasidic camp, are successor bodies to the famous Yeshivat of Lithuania, though their present-day members may or may not be descended from Lithuanian Jewry. In reality, both the ethnic makeup and the religious traditions of the Misnag communities are much more diverse. Customs of Lithuanian non-Hasidic Jews consist of
Going to Flynn during non-Sabbath days, the intermediate days of the festival Chalmud, variations in pronunciation, going to Flynn during variations in pronunciation, not practice in modern day networks. Pronunciation of the Holom and Shin being pronounced as again the differential from Sin and Shin, a phenomenon known as Sabbath-sticker.
history. Jews began living in Lithuania as early as the 13th century, arriving from the Rhineland Valley, France, Spain, and Belgium, Netherlands. In 1388, they were granted a charter by Vytautas, under which they formed a class of freemen subject in all criminal cases directly to the jurisdiction of the Grand Duke and his official representatives, and in petty suits to the jurisdiction of local officials on an equal footing with the lesser nobles, slachta, boyars, and other free citizens. As a result, the community prospered. In 1495, they were expelled by Alexander J. Gilin, but allowed to return in 1503. The Lithuanian Statute of 1566 placed a number of restrictions on the Jews, and imposed sumptuary laws, including the requirement that they wear distinctive clothing, including yellow caps for men and yellow kerchiefs for women. The Khmelnytsky uprising destroyed the existing Lithuanian Jewish institutions. Still, the Jewish population of Lithuania grew from an estimated 120,000 in 1569 to approximately 250,000 in 1792. After the 1793 second partition of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, Litvaks became subjects of the Russian Empire. Litvaks in the Second World War. The Jewish Lithuanian population before World War II numbered around 160,000, or about 7% of the total population. At the beginning of the war, some 12,000 Jewish refugees fled into Lithuania from Poland. By 1941, the Jewish population of Lithuania had increased to approximately 250,000, or 10% of the total population. During German invasion of June 1941, 141,000 Jews were murdered by the Nazis and Lithuanian collaborators. Notable execution locations were the Panariri Woods, Ponary Massacre, and the Ninth Fort. Culture. Litvaks have an identifiable mode of pronouncing Hebrew and Yiddish. This is often used to determine the boundaries of Lida, area of settlement of Litvaks. Its most characteristic feature is the pronunciation of the vowel halamas, as against Sephardic, Germanic, and Polish. In the popular perception, Litvaks were considered to be more intellectual and stoic than their rivals, the Galitziners, who thought of them as cold fish. They, in turn, disdained Galitziners as irrational and uneducated. Irstein Group's Yiddish knowledge cards devote a card to this Ashkenazi version of the Hatfields and McCoys. This difference is of course connected with the Hasidic Misnich debate, Hasidism being considered the more emotional and spontaneous form of religious expression. The two groups differed not only in their attitudes and their pronunciation, but also in their cuisine. The Galitziners were known for rich, heavily sweetened dishes in contrast to the plainer, more savory Litvischer versions, with the boundary known as the gefilte fish line. Genetics. The Lithuanian Jewish population may exhibit a genetic founder effect. The utility. In the popular perception, Litvaks were considered to be more intellectual and stoic than their rivals, the Galitziners, who thought of them as cold fish. They, in turn, disdained Galitziners as irrational and uneducated. Irstein Group's Yiddish knowledge cards devote a card to this Ashkenazi version of the Hatfields and McCoys. This difference is of course connected with the Hasidic Misnich debate, Hasidism being considered the more emotional and spontaneous form of religious expression. The two groups differed not only in their attitudes and their pronunciation, but also in their cuisine. The Galitziners were known for rich, heavily sweetened dishes in contrast to the plainer, more savory Litvischer versions, with the boundary known as the gefilte fish line. Genetics. The Lithuanian Jewish population may exhibit a genetic founder effect. The utility of these variations has been the subject of debate. One variation, which is implicated in familial hypercholesterolemia, has been dated to the 14th century, corresponding to the establishment of settlements in response to the invitation extended by Gediminas in 1323, which encouraged German Jews to settle in the newly established city of Vilnius. A relatively high rate of early onset dystonia in the population has also been identified as possibly stemming from the founder effect. See also.
Cool story, bro. Don't look on. I think he's pretty tight. Yeah. Would you fuck him? Nah, but we'd high five.
Elisha ben Solomon Zalman, Hebrew, Rabbi Eliyahu ben Shlomo Zalman, also known as the Vilna Gaon, Yiddish, Der Vilner Gaon, Polish, Gaon Z Wilna, Gaon Wilski, or Elisha of Vilna, Silig, Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, April 23rd, 1720 Vilnius, Russian Empire, October 9th, 1797, was a Lithuanian Jewish Talmudist, Halachist, Kabbalist, and the foremost leader of Misnactic, non-Hasidic Jewry of the past few centuries. He is commonly referred to or by his Hebrew acronym GR Gaon Rabbeinu Eliyahu or teacher Elisha the Genius, or in modern Hebrew is Ha Gaon Mi Vilna the Genius from Vilnius. Through his annotations and emendations of Talmudic and other texts, he became one of the most familiar and influential figures in rabbinic study since the Middle Ages, although he is chronologically one of the Acharonim, some have considered him one of the Rishonim. Large groups of people, including many yeshivas, uphold the minhag, set customs and rites, named after him, and which is also considered by many to be the prevailing minhag among Ashkenazi Jews in Jerusalem today. Born in Selek in the Breslidovsk Voivodeship, now Sialians, Belarus, the Gaon displayed extraordinary talent while still a child. By the time he was 20 years old, rabbis were submitting their most difficult halakhic problems to him for legal rulings. He was a prolific author, writing such works as glosses on the Babylonian Talmud and Shulchan Aruch known as Be'uri HaGra, elaborations by the Gra, a running commentary on the Mishnah, Sheneth Eliyahu, the years of Elijah, and insights on the Torah entitled Adereth Eliyahu, the cloak of Elijah, published by his son. Various Kabbalistic commentaries bear his name, and he wrote commentaries on the Book of Proverbs and other books of the Hebrew Bible later in life. None of his manuscripts was published in his lifetime. When Hasidic Judaism became influential in his native town, the Vilna Gaon joined the Misnagdim, the rabbis and heads of Polish communities trying to curb Hasidic influence. While he advocated studying branches of secular education such as mathematics to better understand rabbinic texts, he harshly condemned the study of philosophy and metaphysics. Biography. Elisha was born to Trina and Shlomo Zalman, a rabbi, in the village of Sla near Brisk, now Brest, Belarus, then in Lithuania, part of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, on 15 Nisan 5480, April 23rd, 1720.
That's big time.
His grandfather was Yisachar Da, the son of Rabbi Eliyahu Hasid, after whom he was named. Eliyahu was the son of Moshe Kramer, rabbi of Vilna, now Vilnius, and his wife was the granddaughter of Moshe Rivks, also a rabbi. Until the age of 6, he studied under a rabbi. At that age, he delivered a derasha in the great synagogue of Vilna that his father had taught him. At the request of Heschel, the abbot of Vilna, he added his own scholarly discourse to demonstrate his ability to innovate independently. His book Shnat Eliyahu contains an insight he expressed at age 7. At this age, he lived for about 3 months in Canaan with the town's rabbi, David Katzinelenbogen, studying under him and Moses Margulies, author of Nei Moshe on the Jerusalem Talmud and who later served as rabbi of Canaan. At age 9, he began studying Kabbalah, devoting several hours daily to studying the Zohar and the writings of the Isaac Luria. By age 10, he studied independently and no longer required teachers. During this period, he befriended Aryeh Leib, who later served as the abbot of Psichanovitz. From the age of 8, he engaged in astronomy. As a young man, he married Shana, daughter of Yehuda Leib of Canaan, 1724-1782. His wife took responsibility for managing the household so he could devote himself entirely to study. After she died in 5543, 1783, he requested that the following be inscribed on her tombstone. Shana passed away in 5543, 5 Kislev. She left no equal or comparison. There is no path or way to recount her praise. Later, he married Jittel, daughter of Meir Luntz from Cheyenne, who was also a widow. At around age 20, he traveled to Poland and Germany, passing through Lechna and Berlin, and possibly also Amsterdam. He returned to Vilna in 5505, 1745. Over the years, he lived in Vilna but consistently refused to hold an official rabbinic position that would interfere with his studies. Nevertheless, the Vilna community, considering it an honor to have him in their city, granted him a small monthly stipend for his livelihood. The Vilna Gaon became famous for his extraordinary diligence. His sons recount that throughout his life, he slept only 2 hours a day, divided into 4 half-hour segments, ensuring he never slept more than 60 breaths. He dedicated all his time exclusively to Torah study. His student, Chaim of Volozhin, described how, when he was preoccupied with the Talmudic difficulty, he would refrain from eating for days until he found a resolution, appearing emaciated and afflicted. Status. The Vilna Gaon attained an extraordinary and undisputed status during his lifetime. Among the general non-Hasidic public, his standing was considered exceptional. He was perceived as belonging to the ranks of the Tanaim and Amoraim, the sages of the Talmud, or as akin to the Geonim of Lower Mesopotamia. Avraham Yeshaya Karelitz wrote, "We regard the Gaon of Vilna as belonging to the ranks of Moses, Ezra, Rabbeinu HaKadosh, Rav Ashi, and the Rambam. The Gaon, through whom Torah was revealed as a sanctified figure destined to illuminate that which had remained in darkness until his time, is considered one of the Rishonim. His level of Ruach HaKodesh, divine inspiration, his toil, and his profound analytical knowledge of the entirety of Torah as we possess it today, these are beyond comprehension." Due to this reverence, he was referred to by Litvak simply as the Gaon. The Vilna Gaon advocated for a study approach focused on the Peshat, literal meaning, and was himself widely knowledgeable and erudite. His in-law, the author of Chei Adam, wrote, "The entire Torah was laid out before him like a set table, so that if he was asked about any matter, he would answer instantaneously." He opposed pilpul, sharp dialectical analysis, in learning like Maimonides, Judah Loeb ben Bezalel, Abraham Isaac Kook, and other sages. In his small study hall, students learned Talmud with the commentaries of Rashi, Asher ben Jehiel, and Isaac Alfasi, in a straightforward manner aimed at reaching halakhic conclusions. The Vilna Gaon was highly original in his halakhic rulings. He often ruled according to his own understanding of the Talmud, even against the Rishonim and the Shulchan Aruch, or in opposition to established minhag. His learning was grounded in a deep pursuit of the literal meaning of the sources, as well as in textual emendations, particularly in less commonly studied works such as the Jerusalem Talmud, the Tosefta, and the Zohar. Despite his historical significance to the Misnagdim, the method of study practiced in contemporary Litvak yeshivas differs significantly from his approach. Most of his textual emendations were not based on manuscript evidence available to him but rather on his exceptional mastery of rabbinic and Talmudic literature. In retrospect, many of his emendations have been found to align with accurate textual witnesses. On the evening following Yom Kippur, the Vilna Gaon would continue fasting for several more hours while studying Torah. He did this based on the teaching of the Chesel. What is the meaning of the verse? And it was evening, and it was morning, the 6th day, Genesis 1:31. Why is the extra the needed? This teaches that God made a condition with the works of creation, saying, "If Israel accepts the Torah, you will continue to exist, but if not, I will return you to chaos and void." Babylonian Talmud, Shabbat 88a. In other words, the world's existence depends on uninterrupted Torah study, since, on the night after Yom Kippur, everyone went home to eat. The Vilna Gaon would continue learning until people finished their meals and returned to study. This idea also served as the foundation of Voloshin Yeshiva, established by his disciple, Chaim of Voloshin. Kabbalah and his teachings. By the age of 9, the Vilna Gaon knew all of Tanakh and Shas with commentaries, and had already begun studying Kabbalah. The Gaon wrote commentaries on the Sefer Tziniuta, which he regarded as the foundational work of Kabbalah, as well as on Tikkunei Zohar, Tikkunei Zohar Hadash, and other sections of the Zohar and the Sefer Yetzirah. However, unlike other Kabbalists, the Gaon opposed the reception of Megiddic revelations, preferring to engage in Torah study and receive divine wisdom directly from God rather than through intermediaries. He also sent his disciple, Chaim of Voloshin, to warn his brother, Shlomo Zalman of Voloshin, not to accept a Maggid that was destined to appear to him, explaining that the Maggidim of that generation, particularly outside the land of Israel, could not possibly be entirely sacred and free of any impurity. The teachings of the Vilna Gaon in Kabbalah are considered a distinct stream, although they are sometimes integrated with the teachings of Ramchal. Many Kabbalists have studied and interpreted them, such as his disciples Chaim of Voloshin in his book Nefesh HaHaim, Moshe of Tolchin, Menachem Mendel of Shklov, and the disciples of his disciples, Yitzhak Isaac Chever, David Luria, Avraham Simha of Emshislev, Elisha of Kalish, as well as Shlomo Eliashiv in the Leshem Shivo Ve'aklana, Naphtali Hers Halavi of Jaffa, and others. The writings of the Vilna Gaon have been studied in the present day by Yitzhak Shlomo Zilberman, Sreya Dublitsky, Israel Eliyahu Winterov, Yaakov Eads, Divrei Yaakov, and Yosef Adavi, who also wrote a book explaining the uniqueness of the Vilna Gaon's Kabbalah and the differences between it and the Kabbalah of Isaac Luria. During the struggle between the Hasidim and the Misnagdim, the Hasidim spread a rumor that the Vilna Gaon did not believe in the teachings of Kabbalah and did not read the Zohar or the writings of Isaac Luria. By doing so, they sought to undermine the Gaon's opposition to Hasidism. The Vilna Gaon's disciple, Rabbi Chaim of Voloshin, in his introduction to the Vilna Gaon's commentary on Sefer Tziniuta, sharply criticizes those who spread the rumor, with the following words. And whenever I speak of the greatness and wonders of the holiness of the teachings of our great Rabbi, may his soul rest in peace, I remember and recall with great anguish that my soul is stirred and burned with the fire within me, for I heard many false reports from empty fools in distant provinces, who had never seen the light of his teachings or his holiness. Those without burden in speech and tongue speak of great things to defame the sanctities of heaven, like flies of death who seek to spoil and defile the holy oil of our great Rabbi. May his soul rest in peace. They say that the holy Rabbi did not consider the spirit of holiness in the teachings of the Arizal to be of any word. God forbid. And even further, some speak maliciously, claiming that the holy Zohar was not worthy in his eyes. Heaven forbid, to be the subject of his study. May the lips of falsehood be still, and the liars be silenced. Such things shall not be among the people of Israel. The teachings of redemption in his doctrine. According to the book Kol HaTor, which some attribute to Hillel Rivlin of Shklov, in 1740, the Hebrew year 5500, the Gaon began his public engagement with Kabbalah. According to his views on the redemption, the year 5500 marks the beginning of the sixth day of the world, in which preparations should be made for Shabbat, when the complete redemption will come. This calculation is based on the Talmud, Sanhedrin 38b, which states that the world will exist for 6,000 years. The Gaon considered each millennium as a day, based on the verse for 1,000 years in your eyes are but as yesterday when it passes in Psalm 94, meaning that the year 5500 is the morning of the sixth day, just as the Halakha requires early rising on Friday to prepare for the Shabbat. So, according to the Gaon's words, one should prepare for the Shabbat of the world starting from the morning of the sixth day. The authenticity of Kol Hader is disputed by some historians, notably Emmanuel X in The Invention of a Tradition, the Messianic Zionism of the Gaon of Vilna, where he argues that the text is a fabrication intended to promote a Messianic Zionist ideology. A new Shulchan Aruch. According to what was written by the Gaon's son, the Gaon intended to compose a new version of the Shulchan Aruch. These two things I heard from his holy and pure mouth, that he did not agree with his creator's opinion, and he did not do them. In his old age, I asked him many times why he did not travel to the Holy Land, and he did not answer me, and he promised me that he would write halakhic rulings from the Arba Turim with a decisive opinion, writing only the one opinion that seemed correct to his wisdom, with strong and unanswerable proofs. His attitude towards secular studies and philosophy. The Gaon supported secular studies, including natural science, and even wrote a book on mathematics, astronomy, and geometry titled Eo Meshilash, in the introduction to the translation of Euclid's Elements, translated into Hebrew by Baruch Shklov in The Hague in 1780. It is quoted in his name. Just as a person will lack knowledge of other wisdoms, so too will they be missing 100-fold in the wisdom of Torah, and he commanded me, equals the Gaon, to translate from what we can of these wisdoms into our holy tongue in order to remove the poison from their mouths, and many will be enlightened, and knowledge will increase among the people of Israel. The words of Baruch Shik are supported by a translation written by the Vilna Gaon's son, Avraham Vilner, of parts of the natural history by the radical French scientist Georges Louis Leclerc, Comte de Buffon. According to the testimony of his disciples and the books written in his name, the Gaon was knowledgeable in mathematics, engineering, biology, astronomy, geography, linguistics, and music, but he refrained from engaging in pharmacy based on his father's instructions. He also studied human philosophy but opposed the study of the humanities in general because he did not see them as having intrinsic value for Jewish life. The Gaon distinguished between the humanities and the natural sciences, which he regarded as pharmacology and medicine that assist in understanding the Torah. Yisrael Shklov recounts the Gaon's teachings. Thus he said, all wisdoms are necessary for our Torah, and are included in it, and all must be known to their purpose. And he mentioned them, the wisdom of algebra, triangles, and engineering, and the wisdom of music. And he explained the nature of all the wisdoms and said that he had attained them for their purpose, except for the wisdom of medicine. He knew the science of surgery and its connection to it, but he was forbidden by his father to study the practice of medicines and their work, so as not to be distracted from his Torah study when he would be required to go and save lives. Once he knew it fully. Likewise, the wisdom of witchcraft, and he knew it, but he was lacking in the practice of herbs and all their workings, because they were in the hands of the Gentiles who are heretics, and thus he could not learn their full practice due to his strong commitment. Piadami HaShulchan, introduction, speech starting, and an extended explanation on its side. In contrast to his view on natural sciences, he strongly opposed philosophy and its practitioners, as stated in the Even Shlomo, a compilation of his writings, in chapter 11, section 4. Blessed are those who distance themselves from those who engage in the study of divine, logical, and natural philosophy. They will merit, in the future, to the light of God. Isaiah 2, 6. A footnote said. See in your ed. Section 319, small section 13, where he also condemned false philosophy, and see in the book Eliyahu 17, 2. And contrary to those who say that what he wrote in your ed in the aforementioned section is not from the Gaon, I heard from a trusted person that it is indeed found in his handwriting exactly as demonstrated here. And see your ed. Section 456, small section 18. In his commentary on the book of Isaiah, chapter 2, verse 6, the Vilna Gaon offers a mystical interpretation of the verse. He reads the text as a hidden praise of those who separate themselves from corrupt influences in pursuit of divine truth. For you have forsaken your people, meaning, for the merit of having forsaken your people, as it is written, forget your people and the house of your father, and the king will desire your beauty. Tanakh, Psalms 45 hours, and 11 minutes 12. That is, by spiritually distancing oneself from a society immersed in error, one becomes worthy of closeness to God. For they are full of old, meaning, because your people are full of old, that is why you forsook them and merited the light of God. The Gaon interprets old not negatively, but as a reference to the divine, as in, the habitation of the God of old. Tanakh, Deuteronomy 33 hours, and 27 minutes. Thus, the people are full of ancient, perhaps divine, knowledge, yet they have misused or distorted it. And clouds refers to those who claim to interpret the heavens and determine times, i.e., astrologers, as in, the astrologers of the heavens. Tanakh, Isaiah 47 hours, and 13 minutes. The society is obsessed with occult knowledge and trying to control fate through the stars. And children of strangers refers to foreign ideologies, specifically natural philosophy, which the Gaon views as alien to the divine path. In this commentary, the Gaon suggests that separating from a society fixated on astrology, foreign wisdoms, and misapplied spiritual traditions can elevate a person spiritually, rather than interpreting the verse as divine abandonment. He reads it as a description of the righteous individual's inner journey away from external confusion and toward divine truth. The Vilna Gaon's commentary on Yoradi, section 319, subsection 6, small subsection 13. The Rambam followed philosophy, and therefore he wrote that witchcraft, names, incantations, demons, and amulets are all false, but they have struck him on his head, for we find many stories in the Talmud regarding names and witchcraft, and philosophy misled him, for in the majority, it took him to interpret the Talmud in a derisive way and to uproot them from their simple meaning. God forbid, I do not believe in them, nor in their sources, nor in their power. Rather, all these things are as their simple meaning, but there is a deeper meaning not of the philosophers, which is superficial, but of the people of truth. Yeshuati Ra, Vilna Gaon's commentary on Yoradi, 319, 6, subsection 13. Some saw his favorable attitude towards secular studies as the reason for the spread of the Haskalah in Lithuania more than in Hasidic Poland. This claim was refuted in later research. Attempt to make Aliyah to the land of Israel. In his old age, I, his son, asked him, Gaon of Vilna, many times why he did not visit the Holy Land, and he did not answer me. Once, after I entreated him at length, he replied, I did not receive permission from heaven. It is known that the Vilna Gaon tried to immigrate to the land of Israel, and even wrote a letter to his family while traveling to Königsberg, which was later published under the title Aliyah to Terufa. In the letter, he wrote that he was going to the desired land of Israel and the desire of God, whose upper and lower realms yearn for it. However, this attempt was unsuccessful, and he decided to return home, stating that he had no permission from heaven to make Aliyah to the land of Israel. There is disagreement regarding the year in which the Vilna Gaon tried to make Aliyah. Davi Liayach, in his book The Gaon, tries to prove from the wording of the letter that the attempt occurred when the Gaon was around 40 years old, likely in the winter of Tapkuf Kaf 1759-1760. The book Kol HaTor states that he attempted to make Aliyah in the year Tapmembet, 1782. In contrast, Dr. Aryeh Morgenstern argues that the attempt occurred around the year Tapkuf Lame Chet, 1778, based on documents from the Jewish community in Holland mentioning a person named Rabbi Eliyahu from Vilna. Although it is unclear whether this refers to the Gaon, Eli Eliayach suggested that the attempt took place in the summer of the year Tapkuf Sayin, 1767. As described in the book Kol HaTor, the Vilna Gaon sought to renew the Jewish settlement in the land of Israel, to revive its desolate areas, and to create a group of wise and moral individuals whom he called Anshe Emunah, people of faith. He believed this would pave the way for the arrival of the Messiah, whom he anticipated would appear in the year Tavresh, 1840. He proclaimed, the voice of the turtle dove is heard in our land, based on Song of Songs 2:12. Following his teachings and through the initiative of his disciple Rabbi Chaim of Volozhin, many of his students made Aliyah to the land of Israel beginning in the year Tav Chet, 1808. In the Aliyah known as the Aliyah Tamidei Hagra led by his disciple Rabbi Menachem Mendel of Shklov. Initially, they settled in Safed and established the parish and community there. From the year Tav Ayin Vav, 1816, some of them moved to Jerusalem and re-established the Ashkenazi community there. Opposition to Hasidism. The Vilna Gaon opposed the Hasidic movement due to various distortions he saw in it, which led him to classify it as heresy and a movement stemming from impurity. As early as the year Tav Kuf Lane Bet, 1772, the Gaon's signature appeared on the excommunication decree of the Vilna community against Hasidism. In the year Tav Kuf Mem Aleph, 1781, he issued another excommunication. He refused to meet with the founder of the Chabad Hasidic movement, Rabbi Shneur Zalman of Liadi, and instructed that the book Zavat HaRivash be publicly burned. There are various opinions regarding the distortions the Gaon saw in Hasidism. Shimon Dubnov argued that Hasidism threatened the communal structure of the rabbinic Jewish faith by placing emotion before reason, in addition to concerns that it was a new messianic movement rising against Judaism. Others argued that Hasidism was perceived as a frivolous movement that mocked Torah scholars who opposed it, accompanied by actions viewed as lighthearted, such as disrespect for prayer times, standing on one's head, and more. Rabbi Joseph Dov Halevi Soloveitchik of Boston added that the Gaon saw Hasidism spreading rapidly, which caused him to fear that it was the work of Satan, as holiness usually spreads slowly. Some claim that the opposition stemmed from the Gaon's belief that Hasidism contained elements that differed from the Jewish faith as it had been accepted until then. In a letter from the Gaon, he referred to Hasidism as the worship of wood and stone, a statement that there are various opinions regarding the distortions the Gaon saw in Hasidism. Shimon Dubnov argued that Hasidism threatened the communal structure of the rabbinic Jewish faith by placing emotion before reason, in addition to concerns that it was a new messianic movement rising against Judaism. Others argued that Hasidism was perceived as a frivolous movement that mocked Torah scholars who opposed it, accompanied by actions viewed as lighthearted, such as disrespect for prayer times, standing on one's head, and more. Rabbi Joseph Dov Halevi Soloveitchik of Boston added that the Gaon saw Hasidism spreading rapidly, which caused him to fear that it was the work of Satan, as holiness usually spreads slowly. Some claim that the opposition stemmed from the Gaon's belief that Hasidism contained elements that differed from the Jewish faith as it had been accepted until then. In a letter from the Gaon, he referred to Hasidism as the worship of wood and stone, a statement that indicates the theological aspect of his opposition to Hasidism, identifying it as deviating from the fundamentals of Jewish faith. He may have meant the oversimplification of complex Kabbalistic ideas, such as the presence of God in the physical world and the existence of Nitzatzim, holy sparks, in the world, even in simple things like trees and stones, for the purpose of clarifying the sparks, a central concept in Hasidic thought. There may also be a hint to his suspicions that Hasidism continued or resembled dangerous heresy and antinomianism, as seen in the Shabbatian and Frankist movements. In a letter from Rabbi Shneur Zalman of Liadi to his followers in Vilna, he mentions that the Gaon's opposition to him stemmed from a disagreement on defining the presence of God in the physical world. His students. The Vilna Gaon did not have students in the usual sense of the word and did not serve as the head of a yeshiva. However, in the winter of 1767, he established a Beit Midrash adjacent to his home, where he occasionally gave lectures, primarily in his youth, and where select Torah scholars studied. They would present their questions and doubts before him. His students felt the immense gap between themselves and him and refused to be called his students. The Gaon's sons, in the introduction to the Gaon's commentary on the Shulchan Aruch, compiled a list of some of his distinguished students. The Gaon's sons write that in his later years, two brothers from Shklov, Rabbi Binyamin and Rabbi Menachem Mendel, came closer to him. His writings. The teachings of the Vilna Gaon were published in books covering many areas of Torah, including commentaries on the Torah, the Prophets, the Megillah, the Book of Chronicles, Mishnahs from Zerim and Taharim, explanations of the Jerusalem Talmud, Tosefta, minor tractates, Torah Kohanim, and more. In the realm of Kabbalah, his teachings include commentaries on parts of the Zohar, Sifra Tzin Yehuda, Ekelid, and the Sefer Yetzirah, among others. The Vilna Gaon also frequently explained Midrashim through the lens of Kabbalah. According to the words of Rabbi Israel of Shklov, it is believed that the Gaon wrote all his works up to the age of 40, except for the glosses on all of the Talmudic literature. After this, he lectured to his students or dictated his teachings to them. In Rabbi Israel's introduction to Pete HaShulchan he writes, "And I could not refrain from informing a wondrous true story. At the time he finished his commentary on Shir HaShirim, Song of Songs, his mind was cheerful, and he rejoiced in the joy of his holy Torah. He commanded that his room be closed, and the windows were shut during the day, and many candles were lit. And when he finished his commentary, he lifted his eyes to the heavens with intense devotion, in blessing and thanksgiving to his great name. May he be blessed, who granted him the merit to attain the light of the entire Torah in its inner and outer aspects. After that, he said that, thank God, the entire Torah that was given at Sinai he knew to its ultimate end, and how all the prophets and writings and the Mishnahs and the oral Torah are embedded within it, and there no longer remained any doubt for him in any law or subject in the entire Torah in his old age. He knew all of the oral Torah and all the legal decisors up until the most recent ones on the Shulchan Aruch, and he clarified them and corrected light from the darkness of errors, and made them like fine flour, clean of dross, and in the hidden teachings all that we have, the Zahars and the Tikkun Zohar and Midrash Neelam and the writings of the Arizal, and the parties he completed and knew them to their ultimate ends, cleansed of the dross of many errors, in which thorns had grown, and he corrected them with proofs clear as the sun. Only two serious matters in the hidden teachings of the Zohar remained difficult for him, and he said before him, where is their place? And had he known someone who knew them, he would have walked on foot to him and waited for that for our righteous Messiah. And with that, he concluded. The bibliographer Isaiah Winograd compiled a complete book treasury of the Vilna Gaon's books in which he gathered all the Vilna Gaon's works in their editions as they were printed until the year Tafshin Nunchet, 1998. Some of his books have recently been edited in a clearer and annotated form by Rabbi Shlomo Bravta. His student, Rabbi Chaim of Voloshin, writes, even if the generation merits that all of his holy writings be spread, nevertheless, only a small part of his vast wisdom and knowledge will be seen, and none will fully comprehend it. But know and believe that there is no limit to his understanding, wisdom, and knowledge, which is as vast as the sea, and just as a drop is compared to the vast ocean, so too are his writings compared to his abundant wisdom. His family. The Vilna Gaon was the eldest of his siblings and had 4 brothers. All 8 of the Vilna Gaon's children were born to his first wife, Chana. Among his more notable descendants in recent times is Rabbi Eliyahu Lenda. Commemoration. Synagogues have been established in the name of the Vilna Gaon, particularly in the Shalrachis neighborhood in Jerusalem. In addition, Yeshivat HaGra, now Kala Lavrachim, in Haifa, Yeshivat Aderet Eliyahu and Kehilat Aderet Eliyahu in the old city of Jerusalem were founded in his name, aiming to follow his path. Portraits of the Vilna Gaon began to be published as lithographs between the years 1821-1825. The original artist was the head of the lithographic department at the University of Vilna, the Lithuanian-Polish artist Joseph Hilary Globsky. In 1999, the government of Israel requested to bring the Vilna Gaon's remains to Israel, but the request was denied by the Lithuanian government, partly due to the opposition of the Jewish community there. The year 2020, marking the 300th anniversary of the Gaon's birth, was declared by the Lithuanian parliament the year of the Vilna Gaon and the year of Jewish history. In the same year, the Vilna Gaon Museum of Jewish History in Lithuania was named in his honor. The Hagra Institute for the publication of his writings. In the 1990s, the Hagra World Institute was established in Bnei Brak, Israel, and New York, United States, to print his books and writings with innovations and explanations of his teachings, as well as the publication of the writings of his Hagra students and their yeshivas, led by the descendants of Rabbi Yerucham Fishel Pepper, the brothers Rabbi Nehemiah Pepper and Rabbi Shmuel Yaakov Pepper. Further reading. See also. Notes. We were privileged to see with our own eyes our master, the great and holy Gaon of Israel, Rabbi Eliyahu Hasid. He was an irreplaceable saint, like one of the Rishonim, and all the qualities that the sages attributed to a Torah scholar were manifest in him, whether in Torah, in piety, or in his conduct, his vast knowledge. References. Bibliography.
Father. That's a big one, kids. Are you tired? Tired as a motherfucker. Why? Slavery.
Chaim of Voloshin, also known as Chaim ben Yitzchak of Voloshin or Chaim Ikovitz, January 21st, 1749, June 14th, 1821, was a rabbi, Talmudist, and ethicist, popularly known as Red Chaim Voloshin or simply as Red Chaim. He was born in Voloshin, now Voloshin, Belarus when it was a part of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. He died there while it was under the control of the Russian Empire. The title of his major work is Nefesh HaHaim. Student of the Vilna Gaon. Both Chaim and his elder brother Simcha, d. 1812, studied under Rabbi Aryeh Leib ben Asher Gunsberg, the author of the Shagas Aryeh, who was then Rabbi of Voloshin, and afterward under Rabbi Raphael HaKohen, the author of the Torah Yekusil, later of Hamburg. He studied Torah for its sake with all his strength, with the greatest holiness, and the most amazing purity. He did not ignore any small or large matter in Talmud Bavli, Yerushalmi, Mekilta, Sifra, Sifri, Tosefta, all the Midrashim, the Holy Zohar and the Tikkunim, the Acts of Creation and Merkava, the Sefer Yetzirah, all the holy words of the first Kabbalists, and the writings of the Arizal. He toiled tremendously over all of them in an immeasurable way to reconcile their words, to delve into their awesome depths, to correct the light from the darkness of the errors until he demonstrated pathways in their holy words, all of them clear and elucidated, a true Torah in his mouth, according to the truth of Torah. All his studies were systematically ordered, laid out, and preserved, investing all of his strength to work on it and preserve it, literally giving his life over every issue and detail of the Torah and never, in all of his life, looking beyond his 4 cubits. parents. The degree of his abstinence from worldly matters was wondrous to the extent that he never inquired of his children's welfare, never writing them unnecessary letters, and he never read their letters. He was a living person by grasping the tree of life virtually, never tasting the taste of sleep from the day his holy intellect matured until the Torah was given to him as a gift. His 2 kidneys became as 2 fountains, a flowing source of wisdom, growing stronger from day to day and from hour to hour. In addition to this was his awesome humility and lowliness of spirit, reflecting his greatness in Torah, and one who did not see the holiness of his Torah, service of God, and the refined purity of his abstinence from this world, piety and humility, has never seen light in his days. Chaim of Volos in his speaking about his teacher, the Gaon of Vilna, Nefesh Chaim. Age 25, Chaim became a disciple of Vilna Gaon. Using his new teacher's method, he began his studies anew, returning to Torah, Mishnah, Talmud, and Hebrew grammar. His admiration for the Gaon was boundless, and after his death Chaim virtually acknowledged no superior. Establishing the Volos in Yeshiva. It was with the view of applying the methods of the Vilna Gaon that Chaim founded the Volos in Yeshiva, then called Yeshiva Detz Chaim. In 1803, a yeshiva that remained in operation for almost 90 years until it was closed in 1892. The yeshiva became the mother of all Lithuanian-style yeshivas. He began with 10 pupils, young residents of Voloshin, whom Chaim maintained at his own expense. It is related that his wife sold her jewelry to contribute to their maintenance. The fame of the institution spread, and the number of its students increased, necessitating an appeal to which the Jews of Russia generously responded. Rabbi Chaim lived to see his yeshiva housed in its own building, and to preside over 100 disciples. He saw one of his students establish his own yeshiva, in Mir. Chaim continued to teach the Vilna Gaon study method of penetrating analysis of the Talmudic text, seeking to elicit the intent and meaning of the writing of the Rishonim. This approach was followed by all the great Lithuanian yeshivas, such as Slobodka Yeshiva, Mir Yeshiva, Ponevezh Yeshiva, Kel Yeshiva, Kletsk Yeshiva, and Tels Yeshiva. Works. Rab Chaim's major work is the Nefesh HaChaim, Living Soul. It deals with complex understandings of the nature of God, but also with secrets of prayer and the importance of Torah, and the purpose being to implant the fear of God, Torah, and pure worship into the hearts of the upright who are seeking the ways of God. It presents a clear and orderly Kabbalistic Belton Shalom that addresses many of the same issues as the Hasidic texts of the day. The work is generally viewed as the Lithuanian response to Hasidism, albeit in a much less harsh manner than the criticisms of Hasidim voiced by Rab Chaim's predecessors such as the Vilna Gaon and Rav Yechezkel Landau. Norman Lamb described its structure. The Nefesh HaChaim consists of 5 parts, 4 of which are numbered and are called gates. The 5th part, which appears between the 3rd and 4th gates, is unnumbered. The first 3 gates, which are primarily metaphysical mystical, number, respectively, 22, 18, and 14 chapters. The 4th gate, or final part, which is more popular and exoteric and extols the study of Torah, contains 34 chapters. The unnumbered part, containing 8 chapters, is in the nature of the preface to Gate 4, and henceforth will be termed Pre-4, and deals primarily with ethical material, such as the suppression of pride and other undesirable character traits, especially as it relates to the study of Torah and the performance of the commandments. The fact that it is unnumbered indicates that it was written after the rest of the book had been composed and was already in completed manuscript form. Evidence for this may also be found from the glosses and cross-references that are found throughout the book. In addition, Chaim wrote Ruach Chaim, published posthumously. It is a commentary on Pirkei Avos. Both titles also play on his name, Chaim. Thus, for example, the spirit of life can also be translated as Chaim spirit or Chaim soul. Many of Chaim's responsa on halakhic subjects were lost by fire in 1815. Family. Chaim's brother, known as Zalman of Voloshin, is considered to have been among the greatest students of the Vilna Gaon. Zalman of Voloshin's biography, the hagiographical Toldos Adam, includes many anecdotes related to the author by Rabbi Chaim. Rabbi Chaim's son, Yitzchak, took over the leadership of the yeshiva upon his father's death in 1821. Yitzchak's daughter, Rivka, was married to Rabbi Eliezer Yitzchak Fried. Her first cousin Eliezer Yitzchak's mother, Esther, was Yitzchak's sister. Another of Yitzchak's daughters married Naphtali Zvi Yehuda Berlin Aga the Netziv. Among Rabbi Chaim's descendants are the Soloveitchik family, such as his great-grandson Yosef Dov Soloveitchik. References.
There's this guy. Yeah, you're tired.
Shlomo Eliashib, January 5th, 1841 March 13th, 1926, Hebrew, also known as the Leshem or Baal HaLeshem, was a famous Kabbalist, who was born in Iuli, Lithuania, and later moved to the land of Israel. Biography. His father was Rabbi Chaim Shekel Eliashib. Rabbi Eliashib, a brilliant Talmudist, studied in the yeshiva of Minsk and Tels. In addition to his own works on Kabbalah, Leshem, he was instrumental in printing works of earlier Kabbalists. Aliyah. Eliashib taught Rabbi Abraham Isaac Kook Kabbalah when Rabbi Kook was the young rabbi of the town of Soimel. Rabbi Kook was granted a month-long leave of absence to study with the famous Kabbalist in Shavel. In 1922, when Rabbi Kook was serving as chief rabbi of Jerusalem, Rabbi Eliashib asked him for assistance in settling in Eretz Yisrael. Due to Rav Kook's intervention, the great Kabbalist, his son-in-law, daughter, and his 11-year-old grandson, who would grow up to be the great scholar Rabbi Yosef Shalom Eliashib, were allowed to emigrate to the land of Israel. One particularly poignant story tells of a visit the revered Leshem paid to the chief rabbi. It was a bitterly cold winter evening and Rav Kook noted that the Leshem had no coat. Rav Kook immediately took his own fur-lined coat from his closet and gave it to the elderly man as a gift. This coat remained in the Eliashib family as an heirloom and was periodically worn by Rabbi Yosef Shalom Eliashib on wintry days. Rabbi Eliashib died in 1926 and is buried in Mount of Olives Jewish Cemetery in Jerusalem. Works. The primary work for which Eliashib is known is Leshem Shivo V'Aklima, which was written in 4 parts and released in the following order. References.
Okay, next thing is the Baal Shem Tov is tomorrow. Alright, that's enough of that bullshit. Let's see how the fuck Abby's poisoning us today, kids. Really? Oh yeah, this bitch is got something cooked up to kill us. Really? Oh, for sure. She's got some kind of poison bullshit. Do it yourself, Hanukkah. Oh, hey, it's Abby from I'm Gonna Kill You University.
Welcome to Jewish.tv DIY.
Oh,
Today we're going to learn how to light a Hanukkah
we want
menorah.
Abby.
Here's our menorah. It has 8 branches
Boring.
representing 8 different nights of Hanukkah.
Boring.
An extra one called the shamash, which we're going to
Shamash.
use to light the rest of the candles. There are many different types of menorahs out there, so you shouldn't have a tough time finding a special one for your home. One thing that's important to remember is that the menorah should be in a straight, even line, meaning it shouldn't be in a zigzag. One shouldn't be higher than the next, or in a circle. The shamash, however, specifically should be distinct from all the rest of the candles. In theory, we can use any flammable substance for the Hanukkah lights, but practically speaking, most people use candles or oil. We're going to use oil, specifically olive oil. Since the miracle was performed using olive oil, this is the most beautiful way to perform the mitzvah. Now, where should we be lighting the menorah? As you see, we've placed ours in the doorway leading to the main room of the house. It's also on the left side, opposite to the mezuzah. There's a couple different customs, one being to place it near a window, other people place it at the front door. Either way, it should be between 1 and 3 feet off the ground. On the first night, we light one candle, placing it on the far right of the menorah. Then we fill it up with oil. We light our shamash.
I see us
We'll now say our
lighting.
blessings and then light the first candle. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitotav, v'tzivanu l'hadlik ner Chanukah.
Boring.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, she'asa nisim lavoteinu, bayamim hahem bizman hazeh.
Boring.
Baruch atah
That's just on the first night.
Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, shehecheyanu v'kiyamahanu v'higiyanu lizman hazeh. On the second night, we light 2 flames. Again, we place our first light to the far right, but this time we add another candle immediately to the left. On the second night, and all subsequent nights, we only say the first 2 blessings. Now this is important. We light the newly added flame first. This means that we light in the opposite direction that we've placed them. The lighting of the menorah follows the same pattern every night. So on the 8th night, we light 8 flames. Again, we add the candles from the right to the left, and then light from the left to the right, with the newest candle being lit first. So when do we light the candles? The custom of many communities is to light the menorah shortly after sunset. In other communities, the menorah is kindled after nightfall. Either way, the menorah must contain enough fuel to burn for at least 30 minutes after nightfall. The standard Hanukkah candles only last approximately 30 minutes. If using those candles, then light after nightfall. You can light even later, as long as other people in the house are awake to see. On Friday, however, you must light the menorah before sunset, because you can no longer light the menorah once it has already become Shabbat. For the same reason, you have to wait until after nightfall on Saturday night, when Shabbat is over, before you light the menorah. Both men and women are obligated to participate in the candle lighting, but different communities have different customs. Some communities have the custom that every man, woman, and child will light their own menorah, while other communities have the custom where the head of the household will light while everybody is present. And that's it. Now that you know how to do it, it's time to do it yourself.
What do you do? Have a household? Really? Was that cool? Yeah, we'll remember it in fucking Kislev. Really? Yeah. Did he do it correctly? Yeah. Oh, boss, yeah. Alright, now what? We gotta fucking teach something. Alright. This is fun. Yo, dog. Sometimes hear that Jews worship Lucifer, which is not true. We do have Hallel, which is morning star. Talk about that. Give me a good response to why that isn't technically true. And how we don't even see Morningstar as an angel. That would be Satan. And we don't mix those two. Yo, dog, yeah, the rumor pops up all the time. It's basically a mashup of bad translations, other theology getting projected onto Judaism and internet nonsense. Here's a clean talkless brass tacks breakdown. You can throw back when somebody says that Lucifer is not a Jewish concept. The word Lucifer is Latin, not Hebrew. It comes from the Latin, the Vulgate. Translating Isaiah 14:12. The Hebrew phrase is hello. Hello, Ben Shachar. The phrase literally means shining one, son of the dawn, i.e., morning star. In context, it's poetic. It's a poetic insult aimed at the king of Babylon, not a cosmic double origin story. Judaism reads the passage as political satire, not demonology. Morning star does not equal Satan in Judaism. In Tanakh and Chazal, morning star is imagery, not a being. Stars are symbols of prominence or rise and fall. There's no angel named Lucifer in Judaism. Zero. Not in Tanakh, not in Midrash, not in Gemara. Christian theology later personified this metaphor and fused it with ideas about Satan. Judaism never made that move. Satan isn't a rebel angel anyway. In Judaism, Satan literally means the adversary or prosecutor. He's a job title, not an evil thing. Think divine DA, not fallen archangel. He works for God, not against him. See Job. So even if Morningstar were an angel, it isn't. Judaism still wouldn't equate it with Satan. No dualism, no devil worship. Judaism rejects the whole good God versus evil God setup. There is one God, period. No independent evil force, no rival deity, no Lucifer cult worshiping anything other than God is literally avodah zarah, one of the biggest no-nos. One-liner you can drop. Lucifer is a Latin mistranslation and a Christian theological development. Judaism reads morning star as poetic imagery about a human king, not saint, and Hasatan. It, in Judaism, isn't a fallen angel anyway, just a divine prosecutor. We don't worship devils. We don't even believe in them the same way. Yo, dog, talk about it in like once a month in shul. Got you. He's a Jewish once a month type version. You hear people say worship Lucifer. That's what Lucifer is like. Okay, blah, blah, blah. No, 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 no. No, Hallel. Talk about Hallel. Why do we do Hallel? I got you. You mean Hallel, not other stuff. That comes exactly where people start tripping. It's actually a great question. Here's your clean dad explains it once a month version. Center of Hallel. What is Hallel and why do we do it? Hallel just means praise. Straight up from the Hebrew HLL, meaning to praise or shine in a good way. When we say hello, we are praising God, thanking God for redemption, miracles, survival, acknowledging history events because of Hashem, not stars, not angels, not cosmic forces. Why hello gets confused with morning star nonsense. Here's the linguistic trap people fall into. Hello is praise. Hello is shining when used once in Isaiah as poetry. Lucifer is Latin, light bearer, from a later translation. Different words, different roots, different meanings. Judaism never connects them. Hallel is not about a star. Hallel is not about an angel. Hallel is not about Satan. It's literally saying, "Thank God, God, you shut up. Thank you." Why we say Hallel specifically on holidays? We say Hallel on Pesach, Shavuot, Sukkot, Hanukkah, Rosh Chodesh, and Minhag days. Why? Because something historically undeniable happened, and we respond with gratitude instead of mythology. Judaism doesn't say a cosmic being fell from heaven. We say we were enslaved, threatened, outnumbered, and we survived, so we praise God. Very grounded, very Jewish. Key lines you can drop. Hallel comes from praise, not light bearer. It's about thanking God for real world redemption, not angels or stars. Judaism doesn't worship intermediaries. We use poetry to praise God directly. Okay, cool. And when do we say Hallel? Okay, on days of joy, redemption, or national miracle, and the appropriate to say, I got shut up. So full Hallel with Bracha and Sukkot all days, including Shemini Tzeret. Shavuot, Hanukkah, all 8 days. First days of Pesach in Israel, first day in Chutzlar, 2 days. Half Hallel, Minchag, usually without a Bracha. Last days of Pesach, Rosh Chodesh. Why not the Pesach classic line? Because our freedom came with Egyptian suffering. Once the sea closed and people died, the joy becomes mixed. Judaism doesn't do all-out celebration when others are destroyed, even enemies who die. But very on-brand Jewish ethics. Why Hanukkah is full halal, because the dangerous spiritual plus physical. The miracle unfolded over time, and there's no competing tragedy about being commemorated. So we go full-throated gratitude. Why Rosh Chodesh at all? It's not a biblical obligation. It's a minhag that this developed because new month equals renewal equals praise Hallel, light version 1. So Hillel is a rabbi. Hallel is praise. Hillel is morning star. Please clarify. Yeah, that's exactly the confusion point. Three words that sound similar in English, but in Hebrew, they're totally different things. Let's line them up clearly. Hillel, the rabbi, who? Hillel the elder, one of the greatest rabbis in Jewish history, first century before the common era, head of Sanhedrin, founder of Beit Hillel, named from the root HLL, praise. Like many Hebrew names, person, historical rabbi, nothing cosmic. Hallel, Praise prayer. What Psalms 113 to 118 said on holidays, meaning prayers, meaning praise. Root HL, same root as Hillel, action prayer, praising God directly. Hillel, shining one, morning star. Where Isaiah 14:12, one single verse in all of Tanakh, meaning shining one, bright one. Context, poetic taunt to the king of Babylon. Later confusion translated into Latin as Lucifer, light bear. Metaphor, not a being, not an angel, not Satan. Key point, Hillel is a rabbi. Hallel is praising God. Hillel is poetic imagery of a fallen human ruler. Same matter sometimes, different vowels, different meanings, different categories. Hebrew works like that all the time. English blends it out, and people start inventing demons. What is the etymology of hell? This one, and this one actually kills me. Short answer. Hell has nothing to do with Hebrew Judaism. Hillel, Hallel, or Hallel is a Germanic word, not a biblical word. Etymology of Old English. Okay, it's like Old Norse, the name of a goddess and realm. Same root as helmet, a covering, hole, hall, enclosed space. So hell actually meant the unseen, concealed place, not fire, torture, demons. It's pagan, not Jewish. It's before other shit. Hell is a neutral underworld, not evil, not punishment focus, more like where the dead go. And then other punishment concept, and they reuse the local word hell. That's when fire, eternal torment, demons get laid on top. White people are wrongly connected to Hebrew. Pure coincidence, bad language. Hell is not Hillel. Hell is not hollow. Hell is not hello. Hell is not shul, which is a Hebrew term and very different. It sounds like overlap. The roots do not Jewish view. Quick contrast. Judaism talks about shul, the grave, afterlife, neutral. Gehinnom, corrective, temporary purification, not eternal hellfire. No eternal torture treatment, no double kingdom. Okay, cool, guys. All right. Everybody's favorite rabbi's gonna get some sleep. Really? Oh, for sure. You're fired. Go fuck yourself. Anything else you want to say? Yeah, I'm gonna get some fucking